Everyone. Welcome to a brand new, much anticipated episode with Kim. Firstly, Kim, thank you for joining in. We really appreciate. How are you doing today?
Yeah, happy to be here and I'm doing great. Thank you for the invitation to join you.
Wait, for my audience, right? It took 3.5 months to get a schedule, right? So her schedule was crazy, firstly, and I'm so happy, so glad that finally I got this opportunity to go and chat with Kim and share her journey, right? So Kim, so who is Kim? I don't think she needs an introduction. She's one of the what I call OGs of credit union. Obviously you know, okay, what OG is, an original god in our lingo. OGs of credit union, right? Or CEO of Summit Credit Union. I would say, for lack of better words, the architect of Summit Credit Union, whatever it is today. She's got the credit union from 200 million to 8 billion plus. That's itself an achievement of lifetime. She should get a lifetime achievement award. I think I'll present that to her in the next 2 years when Summit crosses 10 billion in assets. So Kim is CEO president of Summit Credit Union, been with the movement for approximately 31 years. So pretty much, I mean, Kim knows how old I am. So that's pretty much, that's my age, and that's the duration she has been in the movement. So she's a true blue veteran. Kim, let me not waste my time by introducing you, doing my part. Why don't I ask you to talk about your journey? What has been your journey so far, Kim?
Okay, so that's a big question is how far do I start back? I most people wonder, how did I get into credit unions? And it was like a lot of people get into credit unions. It was something that I kind of fell into when I graduated from the University of Wisconsin. I was in a mild recession. I was able to land a job with CUES, the Credit Union Executive Society, and that gave me an opportunity to interact with CEOs. At the time, the Credit Union Executive Society was very much focused in on CEOs. They brought in that significantly since back then. But that gave me a really good understanding of what's on CEOs' minds and what do they think about, what do they care about, how do they contemplate different things. And my background is marketing and consumer behavior. So then I went into a credit union, started their marketing department, and built that for about 4 years or so. And then I went to another credit union, our credit union, as the VP of marketing. And from there, I realized, by that time I had realized how important marketing is to combine with the sales force. And so you need the people to, you can bring people in, but you need people to sell as well. And so that was one of the things I focused on and started a training department, started the HR department, a formal HR department, really collaborated a lot with the person who ran the three branches that we had at the time. And I learned a lot through that process. Eventually, the CEO asked me to be the executive vice president, and 2 years later, she left to take a job at a larger credit union out in California, and I then became the interim CEO. The board decided to do a national search. I wasn't. I was about 30. Well, I was 34 at the time, and now I just gave away my age. So I was pretty young from a potential CEO perspective, and I remember I was also 3 months or pregnant with my third child. And so I was only a couple of months, 3 months pregnant when I became interim. And the board, like I said, decided to do a national search, and it took longer than they had anticipated. My board really does a lot of travel, still does, for their own jobs, and so getting those things together took a longer time. And so by December, I had my first interview with the search committee of the board and this person who was running the search, the outside executive running the search. And the recruiter by this time I'm 7 months pregnant or so. The recruiter asks me, so if you were to get the CEO position, what's one of the first things you would do? And I thought, I'm pregnant with my third, I'm 7 months pregnant, go on maternity leave. And the recruiter started laughing, and the search committee started laughing, and really kind of broke the ice with all of that. And I really needed to call attention to that, kind of call that out, the elephant in the room, because, one of the things that I started to hear was there was a leader in the credit union movement who knew me fairly well. And I heard that he had said to some people, I don't know what Kim's doing going for that job. That board is never going to hire her. She's young. She's pregnant with her third child. I can't see that they're going to hire her. And that had never occurred to me before, that like, oh, this would be a problem. And so being naive can be helpful, by the way. And so I really wanted to call that out during that very first interview and make light of that. Then finally had the last interview 2 weeks before my due date. And another kind of funny story about that is back then maternity clothes were horrible. They were very big and lots of material, and I was really big and swollen at that point, and very uncomfortable. And I had this suit that was kind of this royal blue color, and I hadn't thought about it until I had got up in front of the board, and I was going to be presenting my vision for the next 5-10 years of the credit union. And I thought, oh my gosh, I look like a giant blueberry standing up in front of the board giving this presentation. And they felt bad for me, so they said, do you want to sit down? I'm like, yeah, thank you, I will sit down while I do this presentation. And they offered me the job that evening. And like I said, a couple weeks after that, I did go on maternity leave. That's how I became the CEO 24 years ago, and the journey. So it's really a lot about identifying what needs to be done, what needs to happen in an organization in order to be successful. And in the case of being in marketing, I knew hiring the right people, having a good training department, having a good sales force within the branch network, within the delivery channels was all really important, and learning the business as much as you can is good advice for anyone who wants to advance. Whatever you can do to learn the business, that is really an important piece. So as a marketer and consumer behavior expert, I did go to some conferences that were along those lines, but I also went to asset liability management conferences and really tried to educate myself as much as I possibly could on the other disciplines within the financial services industry, investments and the like. So that's my journey getting here.
Lack of better words, amazing with a capital AMAZING. I mean, I would say to the board, took an unconventional decision according to you, right? Going with you. But that's the best thing is the board could do ever, right? I mean, so proud of your journey and what you've done for the movement, Kim, for the last 30 plus years and 24 plus years being a CEO.
Thank you.
So that leads to my next question. Obviously, all of us in life do whatever we do because someone or the other took a bet on us, right? In this case, your board took a bet on you. I literally almost to get my first, not dream job, get something what I wanted to do. I literally camped outside that office for 3 months. I was just hunting one managing director for like 3 months at Accenture, and finally he hired. Similarly for you, someone has taken a bet for sure. My question is, who was the first person that actually made you believe that you can lead such a large organization like Summit? It's a very wrong question to ask because when you were starting, it was 200 million, right? But someone took that bet, and who was a person who was always there with you, and always believed in you?
Yeah, you know what? I've been asked that question before, and one of the things that it always strikes me because from the age of about 13, well, at age 13, I wrote down 20 goals that I wanted to achieve. And one of them was that I planned on running a company or starting my own business. And so I never contemplated the idea that I couldn't run a business. It just was like a matter of when, not whether I could or not. But having said that, I've had some great mentors. To your point, nobody gets to the position they're in completely on their own. That's just not the way the world works. And because we have such an opportunity to learn something from everyone. And I very much enjoy that part of life, is that anyone I interact with, I really do want to listen and hear from them and understand their perspective and their point of view. And especially if I disagree, it really helps me, especially being a consumer behavior type of interested person. It really helps me better understand where someone is coming from. Um, but I had some great mentors. I was really fortunate that the CEO of my first job at Q's took an interest in me. My first credit union that I worked at, the CEO, he really took an interest in me, and did a lot of mentoring. And then my boss, the CEO that left our credit union to go run a credit union in California, she was absolutely amazing. She created so many opportunities for me to continue to interact with other CEOs. She introduced me to her CEO friends, and she gave me every opportunity that you can imagine, as well as encouragement. She also told me when, gave me great feedback when I would screw up and things like that. So it was really, really fantastic finding those right mentors and honing those mentors, because oftentimes people are afraid to ask for feedback and to partner with their boss. And if you can look at your boss as a way to partner, so that you can interact and learn as much as possible. And, FaceTime is really important with people. We've lost a lot of that during the pandemic. And I really tried to instill that in our own children, that, it's really important to have that interaction with people. And that's how you learn, that's how you grow, and that's how you get to where you want to be from a goal and dream perspective.
Quick summary is, I think Kim was a super child because at 13, how did you even realize that you want to run a company or you want to start your own company? At 13, I was still deciding, whether do I want to go to school or not, or what is the reason that I can portray that I don't want to go to school, right? So I was thinking across those lines and not definitely these. So yeah, you're a smart kid since you're a kid, for lack of a better word. Smart person since you're a kid. So that's
Well, I don't know about smart, but I just was, there's just certain things I wanted out of life. I remember talking to my dad, who is a great influence on my life as well. And I was telling him, oh, I came from a very middle class family, and and I remember telling him, I want this great big house with lots of land and 2 horses and a swimming pool that is partly indoor and partly outdoor. And and he was like, well, you sure better make a lot of money when you get older. That's basically what he said. He didn't say, well, you'll never have those things, which I don't have those things. But he says, yeah, just gonna have to make a lot of money to afford that lifestyle.
that's what the spark is, what I believe, because sharing my story, I come from a very small little town back in India, not the Mumbai's and the Bangalore's of the world, where I come from, it still does not have a Starbucks. We got our first McDonald's, I think 3 years back. It's that remote a place. I mean, the nearest ER is 50 miles from where my mom and dad still stays. So
Wow.
I can so well relate to you, from middle class family, small town. It's not easy. Always be proud of what you've done. I mean, I'm very proud of what you've achieved, Kim. I mean,
Oh,
really
well,
proud.
thank you.
Now about skill, right? Obviously, all of us, I'm sure, have underestimated some skills when we were young. I also did. So if I ask you a question early in your career, what is that one skill that you actually did underestimate, but that really became critical across the period in your career?
Well, it's kind of multifaceted a bit, but feedback, seeking feedback, being open to that, being coachable. So let me tell you a bit of a story around that. So in college, I did an internship with the Public Service Commission, and I had a great fortune of working for a, a boss. His name is Al. Al was a really, really good writer. And I'm in college. I'm thinking, hey, I'm a good writer too. And he said to me, and I'd gotten some papers back where I'm like, I didn't do as well on that as I thought. It was always like, oh, I love your ideas, but, and he says, well, let me offer this to you during this year. So I will edit your papers. I said, okay. So I'm thinking, oh, he's gonna realize that I'm really a pretty good writer. So I give him my first paper for him to edit, and I got it back the next time I was in the office, and it was covered in red ink. I mean, red ink everywhere. And there were things written in the margins, up the margins, on the other side of the paper. I mean, I just looked at him and went, oh my gosh, whoa, wait a minute. And my ego was so like, oh, this is terrible, and, and I had to let it all sink. I got emotional about it. And I had to let that sink in and go, well, wait a minute. And I had it, like, after a day or two, I took what he said and I rewrote it, and I saw how much better it was. And I realized, that that is really an important skill. Not only do I need to be a better writer, but I need that type of feedback, and I need to be open to growing and not have so much of me personally attached to that. And so I started thinking, in terms of red ink as a gift. So seeking feedback and getting that is a real gift. And in terms of the skill that I underestimated, it was that and writing. The ability to write in many different ways that people will read something, stay interested in it, be able to convey ideas and thoughts is so important, because it's just such a big part of communication overall. And so that was fantastic. It was really, I will always be thankful to him for that and for that year.
I think feedbacks are so important. I mean, for me, somehow I get blunt feedback about what I do in life from my dad. I mean, my boss too, but my dad even more, because I, he has been a sales professional for 35 years. I mean, I'm all theory. That's what I say to myself. I'm all theory. He has actually done the grunt work of actually going and making deals happen. So the feedback that he gives me, I think I'm so lucky to have him in my life. Like, you got feedback, you worked upon them. I think without feedback, you'll always be on top of the world, and there's no way to improve yourself. So
That's right. That's right. There really isn't.
and what you're doing right now, you've got a very open mindset to take feedback, because otherwise, I know people who are CEOs having egos like this, right? They're so fragile, right? How can someone give me a feedback? I'm like, yeah, so what? Anyone can, give you feedback. I'm what, 30 something, 20 something, anyone can walk up to you and give you feedback, because yes, everyone looks at the world differently, right? And I'm so glad, Kip, that you think of it in this way. And I think that's the reason you're so successful. And it's not about just being successful, it's also about people respecting you. There was a reason because of which I was after Kim's life almost for the last 4-5 months to get her on the podcast, because somehow I personally felt that she deserves a place in this ecosystem of the Women of Community Banking podcast, and to share her journey, right? So this comes to fruition today.
Well, and I think that it's really important for people to make the connection that someone who is pausing in their life to give you feedback, even if you don't agree with that feedback or it might be a little bit off, they are doing that almost always with the intent of wanting to help you. They want you to be the best you can be. And, with the case with Al, he was taking his personal time to edit my papers. He's not doing that for him. He was doing that because he wants me to be as good as I can be. Someone who people will not give you feedback most of the time if they do not care about your growth and who
And
you
makes sense. More feedback. Quick section of rapid fire, right? 5 or 6 questions, very quick.
are.
While you start your day, what is your routine? Not routine. What is that you start your day with? A coffee or a juice?
Coffee as quick as I possibly can get it made.
Makes sense. One hobby that has just nothing to do with credit unions.
I got into horseback riding about 8 years ago, and it's been a very humbling experience, and one of great reward.
Interesting. That's great. Uh, One book, right? I mean, by the way, I want to read books, but I'm a horrible reader. I can't even finish one book. So very wrong person to ask the wrong question to you, but I hope you're better than me. One book that you would recommend everyone to read.
Well, I don't know about everyone to read, but it's an old one and it's Blue Ocean Strategy. And the reason why is that Blue Ocean Strategy helped me and the team that I put together think about our credit union in terms of its value proposition and what that was going to be and who we were going to really target and help. And that out of those discussions came the women market and the focus in on the unique needs of women in financial services.
Interesting. Everyone take a note. This is coming nuggets of wisdom from someone who has built a credit from scratch. Valuable suggestion. Branches, okay, dead in 10 years, or you think it'll be even more important?
I think they will be even more important.
100%. I mean, I think the exact same thing. I'm tired of looking at TikTok reels and using applications. I need to talk to real people. Same. Amazing.
Yeah, and what people might think seems old today will seem new again in 10 years when we talk about AI and all of the digital channels. People will also want, it doesn't mean those branches won't transform as we all read about, but or think about, but they'll be important.
Yes. Now, the question of the hour, what do you think? AI is overhyped, or it actually has impact on member experience, or it will have?
AI will have an impact on all of our lives. I strongly believe that.
Sounds good. One last question in rapid fire. If you were to describe the movement in 2026 just by using one word, what would that be?
Can I use 4 words?
Use five.
Okay, well, this is still only 4 words. But okay, I think we are in the beginning of the start of fundamental changes. So how many words do you want to count?
That's a very deep answer, by the way. That's a deep answer. We need to peel the onion sometime else, but in the interest of time, okay, let that be secret about what does she mean by fundamental changes, what does she mean by transformation. Let's hear from her in a different episode, but this was there. Now to wrap up the episode, right? 2 quick questions. I know we are almost on top of the hour and we've almost overshot. What decision as a CEO you're really proud of?
Our focus on women. We only need to go back 50 years to realize that financial institutions were built around men. We couldn't, as women, we could not obtain credit on our own before the 1974, 75. And our focus on women has really made an impact.
Really proud. I mean, that's the reason my podcast works, right? Otherwise, this podcast would have shut down in the first 2 months of it. Absolutely. Makes sense. One last question, Kim. If you were to give yourself a piece of advice, right, to the 25-year-old who joined Q's, I think you joined Q's way before that, but when you joined your first job, or you're like 25-ish, what would that be?
To worry less and make sure to always remember to not take things personally.
I mean, that is so aligned to my vision. I don't know if you heard about this Indian film star Shah Rukh Khan. He's like considered to be the richest actor on the planet, right? So there's a Hindi verse that he talks about that loosely translates into everything will happen the right way. Everything will end the right way. Unless it's ending the right way, the movie is still yet to finish. So that's pretty much the loose translation of the Hindi two lines of what he says. So that's dramatic, but yeah, it just reminded me of what you talked about, and that's so relevant. So Kim, again, Thank you for spending 27 minutes, 22 seconds with me in today's podcast. We really appreciate it. And ma'am, thank you again. Thank you for whatever you're doing for the movement. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation, Anurag. This is great. It was really enjoyable doing this with you. Thank you.
Okay, Kim. Have a good one.